Alrighty. So we're recording. I'm terrible at introducing people when I do this, so I usually take it for granted that people know who's who. But
Okay.
if you'd like to give a quick introduction, who you are, where you're from, and what it is you do.
Well, my name is AZitIZ, aka, or should I say Lalita, aka AZitIZ. I'm a hip hop artist, and when you say where are you from, there's a lot of places where I'm from. I mean, if you ask any devotee, it's like, well, I lived here and I lived there, especially Guru Coolies. But I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana, born and raised, and then I went to Gurukula in Mississippi, and then from there, high school years, I went to Gurukula in Florida, Alachua, and most of my family still lives in Alachua, and I live in New Orleans.
Oh, cool. When did you move back, or when did you move to New Orleans?
Well, it was around the time where when I decided that I needed to start making a living. Started, you know, for a while I did the musician thing, and I lived in India, and I studied tabla, and then from there I wanted to study tabla in in California, so I lived in California for a little bit, and then came back to Alachua and started working a regular job, and then I realized that there were some devotees that had some opportunity in New Orleans, so I went there and I worked there. And then I just stayed there because it's my hometown. I mean, I remember seeing my grandmother and my grandpa, and they were really, uh, engaged in my youth. It wasn't like, oh yeah, your mother's nuts and she joined a crazy cult. They were actually implementing themselves into our lives, like they would babysit us and you know, take care of us and come by the temple and stuff. So my family, my auntie, my grandmother, my grandpa, were really there when I was growing up. So New Orleans is home, you know what I mean?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so I figured I'd go back there as a adult and learn more about the history and the culture of New Orleans. So went there.
Oh, cool. Do you have any musical or musically inclined family?
Hmm. Yes, actually, I have a cousin, and he's a dancer. He used to travel in ships and do huge dance performances all around the world, and he's currently a dancer in New York. So yeah, he went to school for dance. As far as my other family members, my mom, she just loves music. She loves music more than I do. I would say any brand new artist that's out there, she's always sending me clips and videos and stuff. So
Mm.
my
Yeah,
mom,
that's
she
dope.
loves music, and that's where my encouragement comes from.
Mm. So, what's your mom's
My mom,
name?
Padma
Yeah,
Lochana.
Padmalochana. So you're you could say second generation
Yeah,
Hare Krishna.
yeah.
Cool. Right.
My mom
So
came in 1978 in New
78.
Orleans. Yeah.
Wow. So now stemming from there, how did growing up in Krishna consciousness or in a Krishna conscious family shape your love for music and the arts, particularly in relation to hip hop?
Well, I gotta say kirtan, definitely. There's so many rhythms involved with kirtan. It's amazing. It's gets you going. It gets you moving. And it's
Mm,
very emotional music, actually, kirtan. And so, hip hop, I feel, is the same way. Where the beat comes in and the melody, and then you also have the rapping on top of that that invokes emotion. And it's the same thing. Sometimes if you spit a good verse, you get chills. And the same thing as kirtan. When you're sitting in a good kirtan, you get chills. And I think it's because that ultimate connection there. There's a connection that's greater than us, flowing through us as musicians. And that's one thing that I really, really, really enjoy. And especially with kirtan, it's a much greater connection because you're actually calling out to Krishna. And if you can do that with hip hop, that's great too, you know? So yeah, it's that connection that's greater than yourself that connects with the. Is that your question?
Yeah. I'm just thinking actually around that question as well. Would you say approaching hip hop as a platform or a tool to project a particular quality of consciousness? Would you say that in a sense you're still in kirtan?
As a musician of hip hop, you're asking if we're still in kirtan in that way? I
Mm.
think so. Yeah, because
Right.
there's different ways to call out to God. I mean,
Mm.
just like Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Bhakti Vinod, all these guys, they were speaking Bengali language and we sing it today, but they're singing to God, to Krishna, in their language. And so hip hop is a specific language, it's an urban language, and you can use it in the same way to call out to Krishna, whether it be English or, Hindi or, Afrikaans or, anything like that, Zulu. It's still that way to call out to God in your own way, and he is infinite. So there's no way that you can just pin it down to one specific language to call out to him. So that's the wonderful thing about hip hop. And you can reach the youth in that kind of urban way, that urban tone that everybody speaks. They can relate to that way. And you can bring them into God in the way they relate, which is fantastic. You know what I mean?
And
So,
also
and it's also spitting verses. You're spitting Bhagavad Gita verses, kind of. Not in
yeah.
that way, like, Sanskrit, but you know what I mean. You're spitting verses. They call it verses
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
reason. It's kind of like in the Bhagavad Gita, every word is a song, right? That's what they describe the spiritual world as being. Every word is a song. Every gate is a dance, something like that, right? Every walk
Every
is.
step. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's perfect in that way because you're essentially speaking a message and just speaking it, but it's in rhyme form, just like in the Bhagavad Gita. It's rhyme form, you know. So
So, considering the fact that this is 2023 marks the 50th anniversary of hip hop as a culture, as an art form, as a way of life, basically. Um, how would you say, in your experience, also considering the world influence of hip hop, because it's shaped the world in a whole other way, it's touched many hearts, many souls, inspired many people to live a certain quality of life. How would you say hip hop encouraged you to live a certain way, particularly in Krishna consciousness?
that's a good question. Um, can you repeat it?
Yeah, I'm just saying, how would you say hip hop, looking at its influence and on and in popular culture, how would you say it's encouraged you to live a certain quality of life, conscious life?
Well, hip hop definitely brings me back to my ancestors. Um, my mom used to always say that that spoken word to music actually came from the storytellers in Africa. And maybe you might know better than I, but that brings me back to a sense of foundation, roots, you know, as well as it brings me back, if you want to take it to the spiritual level, it brings me back to a certain concept where we all have to find our foundation and our roots and who we are. Yeah, we're not this body, but there's certain elements within us that ground us, you know? So when you relate to your ancestors, it's about the soul. It's not necessarily about the body. So I find that that relation there through hip hop and spreading Krishna consciousness is the ultimate source of root finding. It brings it alive because not only is it touching on my African roots through the ancestors in the spiritual way, but also the ultimate foundation, which is Krishna consciousness and Krishna, and that's the definite foundation of everyone. So that's how I see things.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Could you share briefly your initial contact with hip hop and maybe your first verse? How did you come to that?
I don't know. Oh my God. I guess I was just sitting there, I had a 8-track recording piano, electric piano. My mom had bought it for me because there was some time there wasn't playing mridanga and I wasn't doing kirtan. I was kind of like in between doing messed up stuff like kids do, and I didn't really have a creative outlet, but I knew that I wanted to do hip hop. I just got out of Ali Akbar College of Music and just came home from India. And I was thinking, I don't know if I want to do tabla. I don't know if I want to do, just pursue, kirtan or just, I didn't know what I wanted to do. But then when I heard hip hop, I knew there was something there that attracted me. I really wanted to do that. And so I used to just mess around with this. My mom bought it for me. I used to just sit there and mess around with it and create beats. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to try and write poems to it. And so then I started writing poems and trying to fit the words together. And I'd sit there and I'd listen to Talib Kweli and I'd listen to The Roots and I'd listen to Lauryn Hill and try to really figure out how they manipulated, the wording, how it flowed to the beat and everything. And I was just addicted. I was addicted. I wouldn't even go anywhere. I just listen to hip hop. If I was driving somewhere, that's all I'd do. And then I would try to memorize the words that they were saying in their music. And it really inspired me. So then one day I was reading the Bhagavad Gita and, I wanted to talk about something that really was for me. Our artists out there, they are always saying their music in reflection to how they grew up and everything like that. And I wanted that same experience with me. The way I grew up is so unique. I wanted to express that. And at first it became just a hobby. It wasn't really something I wanted to put out there or anything. It was just something I wanted to do for myself because it was also therapy for me to just let it go and be creative. And so I wrote this song time and time again. And that was one of the first hip hop songs that I wrote. And it was fun. It flowed so nice. And the inspiration there with the other artists, some say, oh, that's secular music. You shouldn't be listening to it. But I know that Prabhupada, he loved the Beatles. And he loved the fact that they could take their artistry and give Krishna consciousness through their art to people. And he would never tell them to stop doing music. I know that. So, and especially the way that they can offer a service, that's their service to do. I felt like this was my service to do as a hip hop artist. And also, I really wanted to just tell people how I grew up and introduce Krishna in that way, So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's pretty dope. It kind of like resonates with, some aspects of my youth, hip hop, how it touched my life. Coming into conscious conversations, new concepts, new worlds, new
Yeah.
experiences. Uh, on that note, what are some of the challenges that you faced as a or that you face? as a hip hop artist in Krishna conscious life?
Some of the challenges, I would say that there's not enough hip hop heads in ISKCON. There are some good ones. There's people who used to love hip hop or whatever, but because of that stigma, I think, oh, that's secular music. I think it's changing now. There's a lot of people that love hip hop, but I think it's also the promotion of the music. I mean, they promote kirtan and they promote all these other things. I think back in the day, they used to have records. I mean, what's her name? Mother Yamuna. She
Mm,
was signed to, I think, Virgin Records, something like that. They actually were signed to a major record label,
mm,
and they're going around dressed in saris and dhotis, preaching and singing about Krishna. And I think that that's kind of lacking in ISKCON right now. And I think they need to go back to that to promote ISKCON or promote Krishna through music and secular music, because that's really how a lot of people are influenced today. It's a lot of young people, the way they talk, the way they act, the way they dress, everything like that is influenced by the hip hop artist. And it's
mm,
very powerful. Hip hop is like super powerful. And I think a lot of devotees don't understand that, maybe.
mm,
The way that the culture is formed in United States, even, in my opinion, is all because of the music culture.
mm,
Jazz music, hip hop music, reggae music, whatever type of music is always, it forms a culture around it. And
mm,
our culture and our music is kirtan, which is fabulous. But I feel like to reach the other side, if we use a vessel like hip hop to introduce people to kirtan, boom, amazing. You know what I mean? Especially young kids. They want that. And I think also in America, I don't know about other parts of the world now, but in America especially, the need for God consciousness is there. I mean, I can see the kids, they're really misguided. They are. And the ones who are pushing I would say, pushing a certain culture, maybe even hip hop and urban culture, is starting to come down to like animalistic stuff. I mean, like shooting, killing, just so many words that they use that create a negative vibration. You
yeah,
know,
yeah. So
you
would
know,
you say in that, sorry to cut you there, but would you say in that, like, to sum up that point, there's a need and necessity uh, to facilitate and to encourage people who are artistically inclined in that way to reach the other side through hip hop?
yeah,
I mean, looking at hip hop itself, I mean, the world right now, you can see that the consciousness or the popular platform is hip hop culture. It's influenced the world in a very, very, amazing way.
it's very popular.
Yeah. So instead of like taking it for granted that, yeah, it's just another thing, like I was listening to what's his name? I think it was it Cool G rap? No, 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 not Cool G. Who was that? Chuck D? I'm not sure, but it was on Sway, where he was talking about uh how when hip hop started, people thought it was just a fad, it was just blow away, and then here it is 50 years later, and it's like going places, and don't sleep on it. So would you say communities in ISKCON, particularly in the more established center, are sleeping on hip hop or the
Yeah,
power of the platform? Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
I think
What
they
would
are.
you
I mean,
say needs to be done though?
Eminem is 50 years old. and maybe older. Look at Snoop Dogg.
Hmm.
What is he, like 60 now? I mean,
Yeah, he's a granddad.
they're senior citizens now, it's crazy.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that just shows the longevity of hip hop and the way it's morphing. It's always changing and stuff. The lingo is always changing too. It's kind of like tabla. The more you learn, the more expert you get at it. And then there's always something new to learn. That's the whole thing. And hip hop, definitely, I think that the devotees are sleeping on it. They're sleeping on maybe even R&B or some pop music too. I mean, they're sleeping on all of that stuff, and I think it's a great vessel for preaching. And I wish that they did have like a record label that they can put out. And even for younger kids in ISKCON that didn't quite go to ashram or gurukula like I did, and they're more influenced by the Western world. Even for these kids, who listen to hip hop, they can have a choice. And that's the problem with a lot of the music that's pushed on people through the radio system and whatnot. There's no more choice because hip hop is not just one dimensional. You know what I mean? Remember back in the day, they used to have like Common and Queen Latifah, and then they had Arrested Development and all these other people. They were pushing like kind of like a spiritual vibe, more positive vibe. And then you did have other people who were doing this other kind of gangster rap. It was like you had different, within that hip hop community, there was different mindsets. You know what I mean? And now it's just all one. It's all one vision, and they talk about the same thing all the time. So I would think that it would be nice to have, just like Srila Prabhupada, he wanted to bring in the Brahmin class, right? The Brahmin class to influence the culture of United States or influence the leadership of United States. The same thing needs to happen with hip hop. And I would say like the Brahmins of hip hop would be Arrested Development. Even let's see, there was another group with Q-Tip and you remember
Tribe.
Q-Tip?
Yeah,
Huh?
Tribe Called Quest.
Yeah. There's a new group out. They're called Coast Contra.
Yeah. Contra, something I forgot, but those guys
Coast.
are nice, eh? Yeah,
I
they're
met him
nice.
in New Orleans, one of the main ones with the crazy dreads that go up. I met
Yeah.
in New Orleans, and we dapped, and I was talking to him about the same thing. And he said that's why he started the group, because he wanted to bring back a certain element in hip hop where, it doesn't have to be one dimensional, because nobody as a person is one dimensional. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like there's a lane there where ISKCON or devotees in general, it doesn't matter which group, maybe even Narayan Maharaj, I have no idea, but somebody should take that lane and go for it, and help some of the artists that want to go for it, and I think it would bring a lot of devotees in. I really do.
Yeah, now on that as well, looking at the fact that it's not one dimensional, looking at it as a tool of empowerment and facilitation for the youth. I mean, the economics of the situation are always looked at as something material, but then when you think about people's lives, you can't deny the fact that we're in the material world, and you need to be facilitated for in that way, or facilitate yourself. So as a tool of empowerment, would you say an investment is needed in that sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'll just tell you about my hip hop journey. I've been doing it myself the whole time. I would go out and collect some money and then do my music, travel around the world. I mean, all of the things that I've done, going to Germany, going to Egypt, going to Poland, going to Colombia, going to, you name it, to do hip hop. And I'm just now This year I'm going to be doing some more hip hop, and I'm going to India. I'm going to shoot a music video and stuff like that. So all of those things that I did is me just collecting money and doing it because I wanted to do it. Now I have um, been approached by some record labels in the past, but they wanted me to change the whole dynamic. They wanted me to say, no, not as it is. It's do. They would say something like, what did he say? He said, do as it. What did he say? It is what it is. Something like that.
Mm.
He wanted to change my name to something
Mm.
else. And the reason why it's as it is because it's coming from the Bhagavad Gita as it is. The untold truth, or what is it called? Not untold truth, but it's
Unadulterated.
unadulterated truth. And that's
Mm.
the whole reason and the meaning behind my name as an artist. So I didn't want to change that. And they also wanted me to start doing other types of music. And if you go to my SoundCloud page, I have some different types of music, but there is a certain type of artist that I am that I have to be true to. And so I denied some of those offers, and I rather just do it on my own. And nowadays you can do it on your own as an independent artist, YouTube,
Mm.
YouTube
Yeah.
yourself, whatever. But
Mm.
I wish that, during my prime in hip hop, that there was that outlet. I mean, did you know I put together a whole tour on my own? It was called AZitIZ in Azania. I don't know if I met you, but I was in Africa and I went to all these different places, and I had a crew of young hip hop artists from Africa with me on the tour, and I paid everybody's way, and I didn't even know what I was doing. I was going on faith because I've never been to Africa before. And, I met so many amazing devotees. They knew who I was, and they were like, yeah, you can stay at the temple, no problem. Sometimes I'd go to the clubs and perform in front of all these people smoking and drinking and everything. And when I came back to the temple, to the Brahmacharini ashram, I'd be smelling.
Mm.
And the head Mataji there, she's like, I know, you're out there doing hip hop. Just come on in. She was so sweet.
Mm.
But yeah, all of that I put in my own money for. I even hired a backup band, a
Mm.
Rastafarian band. So if it was possible, ISKCON, I think, and it can be possible, should put on a whole conscious hip hop tour.
Definitely. I think what you just described there is Sankirtan. Going to the places where the people are there and they're looking for something quality. So facilitating for Sankirtan on that level is something that I think is needed actually on a creative level.
Yeah.
And on that note as well, facilitating for efforts like that requires collaborative efforts. I mean, one of the what do you call predictions of the fourth industrial revolution, like you just said, these platforms are here, but sustainability means collaboration. Other than that, you're just going to fizzle away, into the obscure darkness of whatever it is that you may be trying to project.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
Mm. So, your experiences with hip hop, how do you balance the mainstream elements of hip hop with the spiritual essence of Krishna consciousness in your music?
Well, there's no graffiti. That's I think people forget about with hip hop.
Mm, mm.
I performed in South Africa. It was called the Back to the City Festival,
Ooh, it's big, eh?
Joburg.
Mm,
Uh, we did a tour, and we were trying to get on that stage, and we were begging, who knows the owner, blah 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 blah. So finally, we got in touch with the event organizer, and he was like, he looked up my music. He's like, yeah, we'll put you on stage. So I was up there on stage with all the people, the artists that were touring with me, And it was the first time in my life I performed in front of 50,000 people. It was amazing. And just that alone awakened that other element of hip hop that people miss all the time, which is graffiti. Because that festival is totally dedicated to the elements of hip hop. Like you walk around, you're seeing people doing, they had a whole wall and there's people doing graffiti. Nowadays, I do see graffiti, but it's like on the side
Yeah.
of somebody's building and it's not supposed to be there, whatever. But as far as that's concerned, I wish I could bring that back, but I'm not a graffiti artist, so I can't do that. But um, the other elements, which is DJing. I'm pretty old now, so I don't remember. No. Okay, so graffiti, DJing, b-boying, and emceeing. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah,
Is
yeah,
there
yeah,
one
yeah.
more?
And entrepreneurship.
And entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Yes. Um. So I don't have a DJ. I usually go with a band. I like that feeling of doing something live with the band. It would be nice to have a DJ. There are some really conscious DJs out there, so that would be great to involve them in the tour. MCing, definitely. And b-boying. I've never done any stage performance with somebody dancing or doing that. It would be nice, though.
Okay. And on that note, how do you envision the future of hip hop as a platform for conscious expression and its role in promoting Krishna consciousness worldwide?
That's a good question.
Loud hailer. This is like almost like blowing the Panchajanya, you know?
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, man. Well, I guess I would say like what I was saying before, where I feel like the lane of different types of hip hop is available, and there's people that want to search for that consciousness, but also, because there is Christian rap. And that's what I want to stress too, that Christian rap, Christian music, they are making a lot of Lakshmi. I should say that. They're making a lot of Lakshmi because they understand the need for that. And there are people that want that kind of stuff, as far as hip hop, Christian hip hop, not so much. I don't think they do that a lot. Do they? Have you heard?
Yeah, man, I've heard some really nice stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, I could screen share, but yeah, I've heard some really nice stuff, and I've been coming across. When it started, it was like almost like, okay, it needs a bit of work. I hear where it's going, but now it's like, it's well oiled. It's on fire. Yeah.
Country songs and some pop songs that were like, wow, fantastic production, beautiful songs. They could almost be singing about Krishna. I mean, to be honest with you, it's like beautiful, So I just kind of wish that if ISKCON could take that and run with it, something like that, it would be not only beneficial for the youth of our movement, but also the youth everywhere.
Some of the some of the points that have come up in conversation with some senior devotees, is that the network is there in terms of like the ISKCON platform, but the onus is on the youth to collaborate, to come together with this common vision and actually do something for themselves. What do you think to that?
Yeah, I like it.
You like it, but you think like the seniors also need to have a hand in it?
Well, I would say, as a musician, I tried to do the business thing along with being a musician. And I tend to, because music is a business, really, if you think about it. It's the music business. But there's a lot of artists that are not really inclined in that way. So it would be nice if they had some people who understood business, Even if it's not the music business, they understand that mindset. And it would be good to have some devotees who can help in that way. For me, I am a business owner. In New Orleans, I do have a business, but I keep that separate from music, because when I'm doing music, I don't think about business at all. I don't know how to think about it. It just doesn't coincide
Yeah,
with me well.
the artist
I
comes
try,
out.
but
Yeah,
so
the
I'm
artist
thinking that
comes out.
there's different aspects to the music thing that, you know, some other type of devotee can be involved in. And as far as like donating money to, giving Lakshmi to, some of the leaders I think can allocate some money for a program like that.
A youth development program.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. So you'd say conversation, dialogue, um, workshopping, facilitation in the form of an infrastructure or a money infrastructure that's sustainable at that, because that's the other fear of people who are involved, the sustainability of the thing.
Hmm.
Yeah. So have you met anyone who's like been like, yo, your music put me on the spiritual
Every
content? Yeah.
everyone. It is crazy because they don't even have to understand what I'm saying. You know, I
Mm.
did the song about Vishnu with Gauranga Simha, and I spit a verse in there. Now, people, they don't know what it means, but they know it's something spiritual, and they like it. They dig it. I mean, okay, I could say I was in a studio, right? And I was recording my verse for Vishnu. And there was this dude with gold teeth, long dreadlocks, got the big old chain. Yo, what's up? What's good, mama? You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And so after I did my verse, I came out of the studio and he was going in next. He was going to do his song after me. And so he gave me daps and he's like, yo, that was some spiritual stuff right there. Yo, that was dope. And I was just like, okay. Because I know he didn't know what I was saying, but he could feel it. See, that's the difference. He could feel it. And then there is, people know if they're into meditation or if they know anything about that, they know that there's certain like ancestral things that they can relate to that brings them into a spiritual feeling, that, a spiritual zone. And from then forth, it's so crazy in New Orleans. I'm known for being a spiritual rapper. Anybody who wants to talk about something related to God, they always ask me, "Hey, can you be on this song with me? I want to, even if it's just singing about their grandma who recently passed, something like that, where they can just send blessings up to the heavens for their family members." I've had people ask me, and so I know that I've built up a reputation of being a spiritual rapper, even though that they don't really understand what I'm saying. I did a song called Kirtan. Did you hear that song?
I haven't
Where
heard
I'm
of
just
it.
singing the Hare Krishna mantra, and then I do some rhyming, and then the bass kicks in, and then I have some other Guru Coolies singing. It's a pretty cool song. So I was playing harmonium, and then mridanga, and then I had a friend play kartals, and we did like a kirtan, bhajan type, sitting down, and then we had the producer put some instrumentals in it, drums, kicks, the whole nine, 808 came through, and then we did some rapping along with the 808 and the mridanga. I mean, it's amazing. And I got a lot of devotees that really, really love that song. It's on my SoundCloud page. But there was people in the studio, and every time I go to the studio, there's people kind of just hanging out or waiting for their session, whatever. And they always say the same, "Oh man, that touched my heart. I don't know what it was, but that was some spiritual ish." You know, they're like that. People can feel it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in their language, you know? And that's the beauty of kirtan. And that's the beauty of Krishna. That's the beauty of God, period. it doesn't have to be in anyone's language for them to get the feeling, because the feeling is the most important thing.
Yeah. So, in closing, any shout outs? In fact, before we get there, could you describe your creative process? What does it entail? Getting down to a page, writing a verse, or putting a song together. What does it entail?
First of all, it entails the beat. I gotta have a good beat. If it's not a good beat, then I'll sit there with the producer and try to come up with a nice beat. Otherwise, I can't really flow. And then also I gotta get chills from it. The second I hear a beat, I'm like, oh yeah, this is the one. Then that's the one, and I can write immediate to that. Otherwise, it might take a little time, for me to kind of get comfortable with the beat. But I usually, if I don't feel comfortable, like I said, I'll talk to the producer and we'll come up with something that's nice. What was the other question you had? Was it a 2-part question or just one?
Yeah, like basically the process. Does it involve reading? Does it involve chanting rounds?
Yeah. So I write to the beat. And there's some people that are so wonderful, they can just, they can write, and then like Nas, he can write and then he puts the beat to it, which is amazing. For me, I have to have the beat. Now there's one song that I did not have any music at all that I developed with Badahari. Badahari, he's a Kirtaniya. And we sat there. The first album I did actually was with Badahari. Like I would record on my little keyboard, and then I would take that recording to Badahari and we'd enhance it, and then he had the microphone and everything so I could spit my rhymes. And he was pretty good. He actually made a beat too. He made a beat for me for that album. And I was really shocked how much rhythm, and he's also a wonderful musician besides just being a Kirtaniya. Like, great. So anyway, that's the thing. It's the beats first, then writing, and then going in and tweaking everything. And then if I have to put harmonies or ad-libs or anything like that, then that's what I do. So it's a pretty simple process, but I'm pretty particular. So sometimes, and then I have to be there for the mixing. Yeah, that's important. If their mixing is not right, then I get really frustrated. And I have to sit there with them. And they're like, oh my God, I wish he would just leave. But I mean, some artists, it's kind of like, it's cool. For them, whatever you put up is fine. But for me, I got to have it like sounding perfect. Almost perfect. Whatever.
Yeah. All right, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on here and, talk about hip hop. Something really close to my heart, like I said before. I think if it wasn't for hip hop, I would be like somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah. Any shout outs? Any holla? Peace to the people.
Peace to all the Hare Krishna hip hop heads out there. And I do have a song, Hanuman, that will be coming out this year. We're going to do a beautiful music video. We're going to be up in the Hanuman Mountains, wherever that is in India. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's a beautiful mountainous region where they have this huge Hanuman statue. I'm going to be there. It's going to be fantastic. Simma's on the track. And it's going to be great. So I want to give a shout out to him too, because he's an amazing hip hop artist. And let's see what else. Give a shout out to you, dear sir, for doing this. This is wonderful. I love it. 50 years of hip hop, and you're including Hare Krishna hip hop in that, because we are very important to this hip hop and to the culture.
Jai.
Jai.